Welcome, everybody. We are going to start what we call our Shabbat Plus. This is where we go into more depth of some cool things in the Bible that we don't always have time for in our regular studies, our regular service. So today we're going to be looking at the genetic apocalypse, transhumanism, and the mark of the beast. Now, you maybe heard this conversation between some humanistic evolutionists, scientists, and God. And the scientists were saying, "Hey, God, we can create life from dirt, just like it says in your book." And he's like, "Is that so?" They're like, "Yeah, we could do all that, just like it says right there in that book of yours." He's like, okay, well, show me." So those guys, they go to work, they start putting things together, and they got their chemicals brewing, and they're going along. God says, hold on." He's like, "What? I mean, we're working on this. We got it going." He says, "So you're making life out from dirt, right?" "Yeah." He says, "Get your own dirt." So humanity is at a place where we can actually not create life, but we can take the raw elements that God has created and we can make some very interesting things. I believe it's akin to opening Pandora's box. And so we're looking at this concept of genetic apocalypse. Okay, so apocalypse here being used in the sense that this is kind of the end, all right? And transhumanism, I believe, is going to lead us to the mark of the beast. Now, let me just make this very clear. We are not against technology. We're not against science. We're not against progress. We think all of those things are really cool. And I believe that probably 99% of all scientists out there, genetic scientists, every kind of scientist you can think of, probably have noble aspirations. They're trying to make the world a better place. I don't think that they're trying to make, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or something like that. Okay, they're not trying to make Frankenstein. They really believe that they're doing good things. And probably in most cases, they are. But we all know that it only takes one madman to take good technology that has great promise and turn it into something that is absolutely terrible. Right? I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to have all of these basically good ideas that will then be twisted and turned for a very evil purpose. And so as we go through, we're going to see this basic progression. Now, transhumanism is the idea that we are going to become post-human. In other words, no longer human. And I believe that when we get to that point, we've entered into what the Bible describes as the mark of the beast. And God says that anybody who takes that will receive the fullness of God's wrath. So there's no going back. There's no mercy for people that take the mark of the beast. But how do we get there? How do we go from being created in God's image to having this different image? And I believe that's what's at stake, is they're trying to change the image of God. This basic movement that we're going to talk about called transhumanism. So the progression starts at, well, first of all, there's no God. This is based on the ideas of Darwin, of Friedrich Nietzsche, and others. God is dead. And then Darwin gave what seemed to be a plausible theory for how life could evolve without God. Now, if you're really into evolution and Darwinism, you'll hear about neo-Darwinism, because they realize that this slow, gradual change just doesn't work. And so they have these ideas of punctuated equilibrium that you have, also known as the hopeful monster theory, that a crocodile laid some eggs and out came a bird. All right, that's the basic idea of punctuated equilibrium, is that you have these massive quantum leaps, as it were, in the fossil record, because they can't find the missing links. All right, so Darwinism has been proven to not be true, and we know who is really dead. It's not God, but it's Nietzsche. So we're beyond that. But again, even though Darwinism has been proven to not be true, nobody truly believes in Darwinism, as Darwin put it. The idea is still very captivating, because Darwinism, or this idea of macrobiology, that you have the slow, gradual change over millions and billions of years, is the only thing in town. That's the only so-called plausible explanation of how life evolved. There is no other solution that even comes close. And so they have to grab onto this idea. So this idea that we have evolved. We have evolved. There is no God, and we are who we are over a process of millions and potentially billions of years. That life started as a single-celled organism. Of course, it started as DNA and nucleic acids and amino acids, and somehow it all just got started when lightning hit this mud puddle. And, that's been disproven, the Stanley Miller experiment, but still, the hope that that's the only thing that there could be is that life somehow started. Because we're here, right? So it must have started somehow. There's another theory called directed panspermia, which basically means that life came from outer space. And somewhere in a galaxy far, far away, life started there, and it hitched a ride on the back of a comet, and it got dropped off planet Earth, and here we are. Cool, So there's all these different ideas, but it's always about evolving. It's always about evolving. And so it becomes, if we've evolved this far, well, let's keep evolving. Let's not stop. And that becomes our manifest destiny to evolve to the next level. And because we've evolved this far by chance, by random opportunity, we have evolved this far. Well, now that we've achieved all this great technology, why don't we choose what we want to become? Why should we be limited in our evolution? We can now take our evolution by the horns and direct it to the place that we want to be. And so that is what transhumanism proposes, is that we now have the technology to change ourselves from the DNA out and become who we want to be. And of course, who are you to tell me what I should or shouldn't be, right? That's my choice. And if I want to be, a better human, cool. If I want to be human and animal, cool. Human and demonic, why not? There's no problem with that. And part of this slippery slope is the idea of transgenderism. They now have declared that there are 71 genders. 71 genders. Ooh, that's confusing. All right, and what this is this is a direct attack on God's word, where God said that he made them in his image, male and female, so he created them in his image. So that is challenging the very idea that we're made in God's image. We've had then major progress in genetics. Illness and disease have decreased over time. That's a good thing, of course, and we're very much for that. But these are just part of the building blocks of getting us from where we are today to where we eventually will be with the coming of the mark of the beast. And now enters transhumanism. The very word trans suggests that it's a temporary, it's a transition, it's a transformation. You're not going to stay transhuman, you're going to become post-human. And that is the goal, to become post-human, to no longer have the image of God, but to have a different image. And I think that is totally what is at stake here. And so now you can evolve into what you want to be, you can augment yourself. And then we come to a very important piece of this puzzle, which is the image of the beast. And so the image of the beast, I believe that there are different elements that will lead us toward the image of the beast. Now keep in mind, I'm not against any one of these in and of itself. We have virtual assistants, robots, etc., all kinds of cool stuff that is now happening. We're all for that. But what we see is that each one of these will become a piece in that jigsaw puzzle that will, they're building blocks that are going to yield this thing called the image of the beast. So virtual assistants, Siri, Google Home, Alexa, Bixby, Cortana, IBM's Watson, these are great. They really help us. You can, Alexa, tell me a joke, right? Or Cortana, what's the weather, right? Cortana, open up my address book and put in somebody else. Very helpful, time-saving things. They're very cool. I'm all for this stuff. But again, it's all going to be changed and twisted, I believe, for a very nefarious end. We're going to look at something called Baby X. That should blow you away. And then robots. They are making progress with just incredible speed, which will lead to something of sex robots, and then eventually the evil Antichrist, he will come in, he will commission a robot in his own likeness, which will be the image of the beast. It'll be ultra intelligent, lifelike, may have breath, consciousness, and it will force everyone to get a mark of the beast, which I believe is a DNA change. And why would you do any of this stuff? What's the end goal? Well, to live forever. Who wants to die? If you don't have to die, I mean, I'm not against living for a while. That's pretty cool. But God has already provided a way for us to live forever. And then eventually it all culminates in the rise of the mark of the beast, which will be the ultimate upgrade. Now, something that's very important to all of the things that we've just outlined is this principle in Scripture. And God said that man can do anything, but keep in mind, it's for good or evil. God said, look, they are one people with the same language for all of them, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. Nothing that they have a mind to do will be impossible for them. Oh, this is God speaking at the time of the Tower of Babel. Nothing would be impossible for them. And they had one language. Well, we have overcome the Babel effect. We have apps on our phone. A lot of them are free. And you can be talking to somebody, and the little app will listen. It will translate on the fly. That is huge. I can read any website in any language in the world, and I can understand it because it will automatically translate it for me. You see, now we can spread knowledge so quickly. And of course, English is pretty much the lingua franca, but we can communicate with anybody because we now have the technology to do that. Am I against that stuff? No, I think it's really great. We can also spread the gospel. We can teach the Bible in ways that we've never done before. But this technology can be used, and I believe will be used for something evil. But doesn't mean the technology is evil. Okay, so I hope you understand the distinction. The technology is neutral. It's neither good or bad. It can be used in any way. It can be used in any way. And so we see that it will be used for bad ultimately, but along the way, we can get a lot of good out of it. So when we hear about transhumanists telling us how by 2045 we are going to be post-human, I would say, yes, I believe them. I believe that they will achieve that. But the trouble is they don't understand the dangers. Because the philosophy is that there is no God. We've evolved this far. We're just evolving to the next level. And based on that faulty premise, we will come to a place of confusion. And we see at the Tower of Babel that God did not take away man's ability to do anything. He simply made it difficult for him to communicate because God knew that man can do anything. And so now I believe that we're at the place where man, once again, can do anything. And now that we put our minds together and we come up with an idea that seems good at the beginning, but it's contrary to what God said, because God said that things are not to, or that everything is supposed to reproduce according to its own kind. And we're seeing that we are now mixing different kinds of species together in ways that should not be. Well, we now come to Revelation 13. Revelation 13 is the chapter that's all about the Antichrist, the false prophet, and the mark of the beast. Now, let me just say that the Antichrist is probably not the best, the actual term for this individual, but that's kind of a real popular name. So I'll be referring to the Antichrist or the beast. They're one and the same person, also known as the son of perdition. He's called the little horn. He's got a lot of names. But we'll just use the generic term of Antichrist for now. John says, then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now, the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. So that description right there tells us that he has the authority of the 10 kings that we'll talk about later, which are demons. And these kingdoms that were outlined in the book of Daniel, the power and the might and the authority of those have been given to this latest beast. And then it says the dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. The dragon, of course, is Satan. And last I checked, Satan is pretty selfish. All right, he doesn't like to share. He didn't pass that in kindergarten, right? You got to share. No, I'm not going to share. Okay. So if Satan is sharing these things, he's giving his power, his throne, and his authority. There's something very special about this individual. Very special. Because again, Satan doesn't like to have anybody else but himself at the top of the food chain. So this is a very unique individual. John says, I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world marveled and followed the beast. So they worshiped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who was able to make war with him? And he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. It was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So this individual, he's going to blaspheme God. He's going to blaspheme the things of God. He will have 42 months in which to do this, and he's going to make war with the set-apart ones, with the Kedushim. And he will overcome them. And he's given authority over everybody, every tribe, tongue, and nation. So he will be a world ruler. He will be an absolute autocrat. He will have nobody standing against him until one day, of course, when Yeshua puts his feet down on the Mount of Olives, and he will stand him personally. And that day is going to be a good day. But in the meantime, there's a drama that has to unfold. Now, keep in mind, God is not telling us what he wants to happen. He's simply giving us a forecast of what's coming. And what we see in Revelation 13 is merely the culmination of the choices that humans have been making. This is where we get to finally, completely harvest what we've been sowing. We reap what we've been sowing. We've been planting unrighteousness. Now we get to see unrighteousness reaped. And it's not going to be very pleasant. And if it were not for the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords coming to intercede on our behalf, we'd all be done. But thankfully, God will come. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. So this second beast is what we refer to as the false prophet. He's called that later in the book of Revelation, the false prophet. We see that those two will be thrown alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone in Revelation chapter 19 when Jesus comes back. So those two are captured alive and they're thrown into that place, the beast and the false prophet. So this false prophet, his job is basically to be the PR man for the beast, and the beast is the living representation of Satan on planet Earth. Now, in my book, Corrupting the Image, I suggest that the Antichrist will be, in fact, a genetic hybrid between Satan and this individual. And we're going to look at some of the technology that would make that possible. Gotta love those things. So we'll look at some of those things that will make this possible, and we can consider this. A lot of it is based on Genesis 3:15, where you recall that Adam and Eve have just eaten of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and God comes along, Adam, where are you? I'm sorry, I was naked. Who told you you're naked? Well, the woman that you gave me, she gave me this fruit, and I ate of it. And he talks to the woman, well, the serpent. And so then God says to the serpent or Satan, because you've done this, I will cause enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall strike your head and you will strike his heel. He will bruise your head and you will strike his heel. So God speaking to Satan talks about his seed, Satan's seed, and the woman's seed. So if the woman's seed is the Lord Jesus, and I believe that is the only acceptable interpretation, if it's Jesus is the woman's seed, then Satan's seed must be something of like nature, but kind of flipped, the perversion of that. And that would be the Antichrist. Again, we'll look at some of those different details as we go through this. But I do all that in a different presentation. So if you want all the details on that, you'll have to look at that presentation. I don't have time to do that today. And then continuing on, and he was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand and on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. So this false prophet is going to have power to give breath to this image. This image is probably a robot, for lack of a better word. And this image is going to do some very interesting things. It will have breath. So it'll have some type of life, some animation to it. Whether or not it needs to breathe with lungs is another matter, but that is possible. We know that we have artificial lungs to keep people going. So there may be something to that. And the image of the beast should both speak and cause people to be killed. So he'll be able to speak, and it will have the authority to execute people that don't worship the image. And then lastly, people will receive a mark, and that mark will have a number which is 666. We will look at these different details. So some of the clues that are found here so far, we see a dragon, we see a beast. This beast will proclaim blasphemies, he'll make war with the saints, he have the ability to create things. The second beast, that is the false prophet, he's going to create an image of the first beast. So an image, the word image is the word ikon in Greek, or icon. So an icon is a representation of the original. It's a representation of the original. So what we begin to see here is, just as God made man in his image, now man, directed in this case by Satan, ultimately, Satan will have somebody who's kind of like, so Satan's like God the Father, the Antichrist is like God the Son, and now God the Son will direct people to make a representation of himself, and people are supposed to worship this. It almost sounds like some type of an avatar or something like that. If you haven't seen the movie, go see it. It's interesting. Avatar. And then they're gonna be required to take a mark. And anybody who takes the mark has to do three things, and if they do these three things, they will be doomed forever. No hope of ever coming back. They have to worship the beast, they have to worship the image, and they have to physically take the mark. Those are the three elements that are required to be lost forever. So if you do just one but not the other, you're not doomed. But if you do all three, it's lights out, and there's no going back, no hope at all. Now, I believe that part of this slippery slope of getting to this place of taking that mark is through transgenderism. You see, it's not like just the Antichrist shows up and, here, take this, and people are like, oh, okay, sounds like a good idea. No, it's a very slippery slope. And I see transgenderism as part of this means to a transhuman end, and eventually the mark of the beast. So we started with this idea that there is no God. We've evolved, therefore keep evolving. You can choose what you want to be. And now we have the idea of 71 genders, not just the two that God created, but it's a blending, it's a blurring of what God actually created. Now, Dr. Paul R. McHugh, who's the former psychiatrist in chief for Johns Hopkins Hospital and is current distinguished service professor of psychiatry, said that transgenderism is a mental disorder that merits treatment that sex change is biologically impossible, and that people who promote sexual reassignment surgery are collaborating with and promoting a mental disorder. I would say that's very true in a clinical sense. I'd also say that it's very satanic. I'm not saying the people that are confused are necessarily satanic, but this idea itself is satanic, because it's going against where God said that he created them male and female. You see, what the great thing about that is, this is quantifiable. We can look at a person's DNA and say, well, you've got an XY, you're a guy. You have an XX, you're a girl. I mean, it's that simple. Okay, and there's a tiny few people who have even like really whacked out genetic disorders. Okay, so, but they're not the people we're talking about. We're talking about boys who have XY and girls who have XX. So they have the right sex chromosomes, but they've been confused. Why were they confused? Because their parents did not stand up and say, no, you're a boy. No, I'm sorry, you're a girl. Okay? And it's not that boys can't play with tea sets. You can do that. That's cool. And boys can even play with dolls. That's not a problem. In fact, they probably should, learn to change those diapers. That's good, boys. All right? But you're a boy. Okay? And you're going to act like a boy. And I, your father, am going to teach you how to act like a man. Not machista. Not at all. I'm not going to teach you how to be a sexual pervert, or to be a predator, or to be a pedophile. No. I'm going to teach you what it really means to be a man. And we guys have dropped the ball. Now, it's easy to say it's those guys out there, but we're part of those guys out there, all right? So we need to stand up and say, no, we are going to teach our young men to be men. And we're going to teach our young ladies to be ladies. There's no blurring of these lines. But when we blur the lines, what you're saying is, hey, God, you made a mistake. You created male and female, but we know there's 71 genders. You can only have 71 genders if you believe there's no God. But if you believe there's a God, then you're stuck with 2, and that's good. Because quite frankly, we all have enough choices to make without having to decide what gender you are. And you might say, now, what are we talking about? What kind of genders could we possibly have? Well, as you can see from this graphic, there's all kinds of different opportunities. You can be kind of a woman's head. In your mind, you're a woman, but physically you're a boy. Or you're a boy mentally, but physically you're a girl. Or your arm is a girl, apparently, or something. Or from the top up, you're a man, but from the waist down, you're a girl. I mean, there are even lesbian couples who, of course, one of them is acting as the man, and yet her plumbing works better, and so even though she has been turned into a he, she has decided to have the baby because her plumbing works better. You're like, well, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Like, you were a girl, then you became a boy, but you always wanted the experience of having a child, so now you're going to have a child. Like, that is just confusing. My goodness. Thank God he made us male and female. And whichever of those two you are, embrace it fully. Don't try to change to the other side. Trust me, the grass isn't greener. Okay? Men have their issues, women have their issues. It's all okay. So just stick with what you are. But this is, again, part of blurring that line. And think of something that's so fundamental. If the very concept of male and female can be challenged and say you can choose to be something else, what about your very image of being human, being created in God's image, and now you can change that? You can turn that around to be something different. You see, this is part of that slippery slope, unfortunately. So I see transgenderism as prepping mankind for the mark, because it makes us question the most basic assumption about who each of us is, male or female, which is 100% antithetical to God creating man, male and female. If male and female are in question and can be changed, then perhaps our humanity is up for grabs too. And something on a more radical approach, here you can see these people have disfigured their bodies so terribly. This man now has a cloven tongue like a snake, And of course, he even says that he's a freak. Proud of this. I mean, who are you to say that he can't do that? Or this man has actually surgically implanted a type of whiskers into his face, and he tattooed his face to look like a tiger. He sharpened his teeth. I'm not sure what she or it is supposed to be. This woman actually implanted silicone horns underneath her skin. So becoming the beast. Now, these, of course, are very radical. Most people won't go to that extreme, but even though most of the population would never do that, the idea is, but who are you to say that they shouldn't or that they can't? I mean, if that's who they feel they are, then you have to accept it. You see, and it's that acceptance, it's the chipping away of what is normal, what is right, what is good, what is wholesome. You keep chipping away at that with this lie that you can be whatever you want to be. And now, instead of just, kind of dressing up and putting things under your skin, what if we changed your DNA? What if we put cat DNA into you? Would you do it? And the answer is yes, people would do it. They would do it. So again, this slippery slope is that we have this transgenderism, then we become, man actually becomes the beast. And I believe that the Antichrist is called the beast is because he is a beast. Because the image of God that he was born with has been transformed into something else, something that is no longer completely God's image. Is now an amalgamation of the original image and Satan's image now thrown together to make this something else. And if people will accept these kind of things, imagine if there were a bigger carrot, hey, you can become something far better. Well, again, this is the slippery slope. We see transhumanist Richard Seed, he says, we are going to become gods, period. But if you're going to interfere with me becoming a god, you're going to have trouble. There'll be warfare. And so we see, and this is kind of old news already, concerning transgenics. Genetic scientists have incorporated selected spider DNA into goat embryos to engineer a hybrid spider goat. The result is a goat that looks like a goat, acts like a goat, but produces milk which contains proteins, which when treated, produce a very close imitation of the viable spider silk. A single goat only produces small amounts of the desired material, so an extremely large herd is required to acquire useful quantities. Now, God said everything was to reproduce according to its own kind. Just because we can do this kind of thing doesn't mean we should do this. Imagine if these goats get out into the general population. We don't know what will happen. Oh, nothing's going to happen. We don't know that. Something very well could happen, and I believe it eventually will. These are Taiwan researchers that have mingled the seed or genetic material of pigs with jellyfish that glow in the dark to create real-life green eggs and ham. And they claim that while other researchers have bred partly fluorescent pigs, theirs are the only pigs in the world that are green through and through. The pigs are transgenic, created by adding genetic material from jellyfish into a normal pig embryo. Oh, cool. We got glow-in-the-dark animals, right? No, not cool, right? Only the jellyfish are supposed to glow in the dark. We don't want pigs. It's bad enough to eat bacon, but bacon that glows in the dark? Bad idea. Bad idea. Juan Enriquez, who is chairman and CEO of Biotech Company, he stated that humanity is on the verge of becoming a new and utterly unique species, Homo evolutus. And what makes this species so unique is that it takes direct and deliberate control over the evolution of the species. The day may come when we are able to take the best biology of the known animal kingdom and make it part of our own. This isn't just about being a bit stronger or having perfect eyesight our whole lives. All of our organs and limbs have weaknesses that can be addressed, and there are also opportunities to go beyond basic fixes and perform more elaborate enhancements. According to Joseph and Franco, the senior counsel for the Alliance Defense Fund, he says the chimera, in Greek mythology was a monster with a lion's head, a goat's body, and a dragon's tail. It was universally viewed by the Greeks as a hideous creature precisely because of its unnatural hybrid makeup. We are in a time where scientists are seriously contemplating the creation of human-animal hybrids. The human era ended, according to Werner Verge, writing for H+ magazine, which is the transhumanist magazine. He says that within 30 years, we will have the technological means to create superhuman intelligence. Shortly thereafter, the human era will be ended. So he said that in 2010. We're now up to 2017. Okay, so 30 years from 2010 is 2040. And they believe that by 2045, we will no longer be human. It's not just one guy saying this. Transhumanism is here. This is from Leon Cass. He says, human nature itself lies on the operating table, ready for alteration, for eugenic and psychic enhancement, for wholesale redesign. In leading laboratories, academic, industrial, new creators are confidently amassing their powers and quietly honing their skills. While on the street, their evangelists are zealously prophesying a post-human future. For anyone who cares about preserving our humanity, the time has come for paying attention. And we discovered back around 2011 that 150 human-animal hybrids have been grown in UK labs for 3 years in secret. This is already happening. We're kind of, some of that is old news. And the steps to reject the image of God are such that man has no fear of God, which is the only natural solution if people feel that God has been disproven through evolution. And of course, if there is no God, then there is no need to submit to his word. And having rejected the author of the word, man is under no obligation to accept the statements in his book, nor is he seeking the solution to man's problems prescribed in the book. And believing that he's evolved this far, and the complexity of the human body is due to evolution, man believes that he should carry on his own evolution. And so man desires to direct his own destiny and rewrite his source code by mixing it with creatures. By rewriting his DNA according to his own wisdom, man rejects the image of God, which is coded in his DNA. And should the right opportunity arise, man might be willing to go through the ultimate upgrade and thereby completely reject the image of God. Now, you, I'm sure, are familiar with Elon Musk. He owns Tesla, the Tesla car company. He has SpaceX. He's a visionary. He says concerning artificial intelligence, it's our biggest existential threat and that we're summoning the demon. He says, I think we should be very careful about artificial intelligence. If I had to guess at what our biggest existential threat is, it's probably that. So we need to be very careful, said Musk. I'm increasingly inclined to think that there should be some regulatory oversight, maybe at the national, international level, just to make sure that we don't do something very foolish. With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. And all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, it's like, yeah, he's sure he could control the demon. Doesn't work out, said Musk. So that's kind of the hubris that we have. Oh, we got this. You know, artificial intelligence, we can do that. Opening up our DNA, we can do that. And we're in control, but it doesn't work out. So this is from a man who's deep into this. He obviously is working in artificial intelligence, and this is just one piece of the puzzle. Are we against artificial intelligence? I'm not. I think it's really cool. It's opening up all kinds of new possibilities. But that and genetic research, these, I believe, are all going to lead to the ultimate development of the image of the beast and ultimately the mark of the beast. Now, in Revelation 9, it talks about how people are seeking death and they cannot find it. I believe that this is a fulfillment of what man has been looking for, immortality. Immortality. I mean, think about it. God forbid that, anybody should kill themselves, but if you really wanted to, I'm sure you could figure it out, right? I mean, unfortunately, sadly, people do it every day. And, it is possible, if you really want to kill yourself. And yet, here in Revelation chapter 9, it says they were commanded, these creatures that come out of the abyss, not to harm the grass of the earth, or any green thing, or any tree, but only those men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. And they were not given authority to kill them, but to torment them for 5 months. Their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it strikes a man. In those days, men will seek death and not find it. They will desire to die, and death will flee from them. So these are the people who have not been sealed with the mark of God on their foreheads, and presumably they have taken the mark of the beast. and they have achieved a type of immortality. But having achieved it, now they don't want it. Now they're like, oh, I wish I could die, but they can't die. Why can't they die? Because they're immortal, at least for a time. Not forever, maybe, but they won't die because they've done something to their bodies. The Bible doesn't give us all the details, but it gives us enough to say, wow, something is different. When you can't die, that's very different. Now, again, thinking about all these pieces that go into transhumanism and how we could eventually get to that level, we see that from 1900 until about 2000, the changes in the going from electromechanical types of computers to the integrated circuit, and there's something known as Moore's Law. Moore's Law, developed by a guy named Moore, and he predicted that information, or our capacity to process information, would double about every 18 months. And that has proven to be true. That every 18 months we've doubled what we knew. And that number is actually, the time that we double the information is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, until we're now getting to double information every 12 months or every 6 months. So that what we knew just 6 months ago, we now know twice as much. Not that we have more encyclopedic information, but we now can process that information all the much faster. And of course, that's what we call a parabolic curve. A parabolic curve is where you start off kind of slow, and then you eventually begin to go up until you just go straight up. And the basic prediction is that when we go straight up, which will happen about 2045, that is when we will become post-human. And so if you were to believe the transhumanists, the end of the world, as we know it, will happen by 2045. Interesting year, of course. We see that Israel was established, the modern state of Israel was established in 1948. If you take off 3.5 years, because the last 42 months, that'll take you to 2045, right? Interesting. Okay, so 100 years from 1948 is 2048 minus 3.5 takes you about 1945 or 1944 and a half, something, or 2044 and a half, somewhere in there. So it's an interesting number. I'm not going to say that it's absolutely true because I have no idea, but it's fun to speculate. So maybe that's what's happening. Again, we see more of Moore's Law, going from the analytic engine up to all the kinds of chips that we have today. So you can see it once again, this whole idea of this parabolic curve. You can see it's kind of flat, and then it starts to go up. And we're now getting to this point right here where pretty soon we should just go straight up. All right, and looking at the basic time, probably around 2045. That's the essential prediction. We'll see, of course. Now, here's another parabolic curve, but it's going just the opposite direction. And we're starting up here with what we call abiogenesis. That is life coming from non-living material. All right, and then over here is the biodigital fusion, where biology and digital technology, they fuse together. And this whole thing, there's an inherent bias in here that we mysteriously evolved from non-life. We have no idea how, but it happened because we're here. See, voila. It must have happened because we're here. And there is no God, of course. So given that there's no God and we're here, we evolved somehow. And that idea is then from there you have this random somehow RNA came along, and then RNA eventually was able to evolve into DNA, and then we have cells and human bioevolution, and then of course brains. So the whole idea of your brain is just an evolution of matter. Just cells getting together, and these cells somehow figure out that, hey, it's better if we all work together, and let's develop ourselves into a brain. Okay, again, so many unspoken biases here. Idea. The most fundamental is it's our destiny to evolve. See, I mean, this proves it. We've evolved from rocks, and then we somehow got brains, and now we have created a digital environment. Now we can become one with the very technology that we have created. Ooh, pretty cool, huh? Pretty scary to some extent. Ray Kurzweil, he talks about the singularity. Ray Kurzweil is one of the foremost spokespersons for the transhumanist movement. He is probably one of the original pioneers of this idea. And he now works for Google. If you didn't know, Google's pretty rich. He is their chief engineer. And so he now has way out their ideas with way out their money, all right, to make some of these things become a reality. And he says he reserves the term singularity for a rapid increase in artificial intelligence as opposed to other technologies. And writing, for example, that the singularity will allow us to transcend these limitations of our biological bodies and brains. There will be no distinction post-singularity between human and machine. He also defines his predicted date of the singularity, 2045, in terms of when he expects computer-based intelligences to significantly exceed the sum total of human brain power. Writing that advances in computing before that date will not represent the singularity because they do not yet correspond to a profound expansion of our intelligence. Again, the singularity is that point at which we transcend the limitations of our humanity, when we can officially no longer call ourselves human. In other words, to put that in biblical speak, it's when we no longer have the image of God as our core representation, but we're now representing something else. We've transitioned out of this image into a different image. He predicts it by 2045. Again, based on God saying that nothing will be impossible for them, I think that we're actually going to get to that date. But it won't turn out quite as rosy as they predict. That's part of the danger. Now, things that are happening right now, this is called biohacking. And this is happening already today. Gabriel Lacina, he achieved night vision and he can see in the dark. We also have Kevin Warwick, whose project is to connect the human brain to the internet. Then we have Tim Cannon. He implanted a device connected to his Android phone on his arm, and he can track his health through the device, and it sends him text messages when something is wrong. Kind of like with a little idiot light on your car, check your engine. I guess that's his check engine light. One of the most interesting, I believe, is Neil Harbison. He is the first cyborg to be officially recognized by a government. He can hear colors and has an antenna implanted in his skull. So he's officially colorblind. And in order to see colors, he had this antenna inserted on the back of his skull, so it's going into his brain. And then it comes out this little camera, as you can see right here, this little camera kind of thing. And it looks weird, looks like he's recording you, but he's not. This little camera is only picking up the signals that the colors, the vibrations of the colors, and then those vibrations are translated into sound so that he can hear the colors. Kind of strange, huh? But is it wrong for him to do that? The guy's colorblind. Wouldn't you want to see colors? It's nice to see what color that is. Is that a red light or a green light? It could be handy to see colors. Probably why God gave us colors, right? So I don't think that this is evil in and of itself, but I think it's one more brick in the wall. That these are the Legos that are getting us to that place where then some sinister guy called the Antichrist will say, oh, all of this great technology you guys have built, I'm now going to take it and twist it for my own means. And I see that's where we're going. Magnetic implants. Talk about the sixth sense, where you actually have magnets implanted under your skin, attached to your nerves, so that you can feel metal. You can feel a magnetic field. That's kind of cool, right? Wow. Maybe for a day I wouldn't mind doing that, but I don't know. God gave me 5 senses. Maybe he wanted me to have 5 senses. Maybe I don't need a sixth sense. I don't know. But these are the kind of things that are happening already. This is not science fiction. This is science fact. According to Stephen Hawking, this is now theoretical, but he believes that soon it will be possible to upload your consciousness to the internet. I could see why he would want to do that, quite frankly. His body has been twisted. It's been marred by disease. If I were him, I'd want to upload myself to a computer as well. So I'm not saying that the desire for that is wrong, but you see, God has already promised us new bodies. He's promised us to incredible powers right here and now. And I actually believe that if the church were doing its job, if we were doing our job and believing what God has told us to do, nobody would be impressed by transhumanism, because you're like, oh, those Christians already do that, you know? I mean, the power of God already gives you everything you need and everything you could want. Well, because we're sheepish and we're afraid, and we say, oh, I don't know, I don't want to do that. Then, well, we have to turn to technology. So all these things are cool because we crave these things, because God has already given us the authority to have these things through Jesus, but not through these other means. And it will eventually lead to a bad idea. The last one is the human body as a power source, the Naomi Kisner project. This is like the Matrix. We all get turned into batteries, something like that. So interesting ideas here, but I think eventually we're going to get to the place where these types of technologies, it won't be a question of, is it ethical to use these? But it'll be turned around, is it ethical to not use these? And it'll be suggesting that it's now unethical for you not to do that. You might have heard of the woman who was sent to jail because she did not vaccinate her children. Whether you think she should or shouldn't is really beside the point here. But the government thinks that it's unethical for her not to vaccinate her children. That could just be part of this whole idea that, hey, you're being an irresponsible parent by not vaccinating your children. Or you're being an irresponsible parent by not getting a genetic transformation to your children, by not participating in genetic engineering. Because this disease that this kid has, we can fix that. And this limitation that they have, we can fix that. And this mental handicap called being a kid and just not knowing everything, we can take care of that too. And on it goes. Or things like death. Hold on, now I got a video for you. All right, so I'm doing this, this is what we call redneck technology. Okay, redneck tech, I think it's called. I hold the microphone and you get to listen. Okay, so this is the 2045 initiative. It's a transhuman 30-year forecast towards the singularity. So let me just start this over.
2015 to 2020, the avatar is created. A robotic human copy controlled by thought via brain-computer interface. It becomes as popular as a car. In Russia and in the world appear, in testing mode, several breakthrough projects. Android robots to replace people in manufacturing tasks. Android robot servants for every home. Thought-controlled avatars to provide telepresence in any place in the world and abolish the need for business trips. Flying cars. Thought-driven mobile communications built into the body or sprayed onto the skin. 2020 to 2025. An autonomous system providing life support for the brain and allowing it interaction with the environment is created. The brain is transplanted into an Avatar B. With Avatar B, man receives new, expanded life. 2025. The new generation of avatars provides complete transmission of sensations from all 5 sensory robot organs to the operator. 2030 to 2035. Rebrain. The colossal project of brain reverse engineering is implemented. World science comes very close to understanding the principles of consciousness. 2035. The first successful attempt to transfer one's personality to an alternative carrier. The epoch of cybernetic immortality begins. 2040 to 2050. Bodies made of nanorobots that can take any shape. Arise alongside hologram bodies. 2045 to 2050. Drastic changes in social structure and in scientific and technological development. All the prerequisites for space expansion are established. For the man of the future, war and violence are unacceptable. The main priority of his development is spiritual self-improvement. A new era dawns. The era of neo-humanity.
Yay. Wow, neo-humanity. Sounds great. Did you hear the the greatest thing that in the future will be spiritual self-improvement. All right, so now we should be doing that now. In fact, if we did that now, if we really pressed in to the things that Jesus said, you can do this, nothing will be impossible for you when you believe. You can move mountains and trees, and you can walk on water. You can heal the sick, give sight to the blind, cleanse the leper. All those things are already ours. Don't you get it? Those are already ours. And even if this body should fail, we know that we have a body that will never fail. Never fail. That is our future. That is our right as children of God. All of those things are already our prerogatives. But because we're sheepish and we don't really believe it, the Son of Man said, when the Son of Man returns, will he find faith on the earth? Implication, I don't think so. Right? Because the love of many will grow cold, people will turn toward lawlessness. Well, you might say, well, this is far off. No, you can actually get a do-it-yourself kit. Bacterial gene engineering CRISPR kit. Now, you can't, change your own DNA just yet, but that's not far off. You can actually buy this for $159. You can buy it online today, and you can start becoming a gene hacker yourself. No problem. Do it in your garage or whatever. Everything's included in there. It's great. Pretty cool. All right, now, CRISPR technology, CRISPR-Cas9 is called its gene editing technology. This is so new. When I was doing the research for my book back in 2010 and 11, this had not come out yet. Okay, so this is brand new technology where they've discovered a new way to go and edit genes inside of living organisms. This is huge. It's not just happening in the petri dish, okay, or they're kind of splicing them together like Dolly, the sheep, way back when. No, this can happen inside of you. You can change your DNA while you're standing on your feet, and your cells can be changed from the inside out. That's what makes this so powerful. And it's incredibly cheap, it's incredibly easy, and they're getting better at it all the time. So here's a quick little video explaining what CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing technology is all about. And they say this will change humanity forever. This is a reality. This is not in the future. It's not science fiction. This is today kind of stuff. Maybe I'll play it. Maybe I won't. Hold on. Okay. See if I'm clever enough to play the video. Maybe I'm not. I guess, huh? Okay, take off. There we go. Okay, it was the laser pointer. Okay.
With a revolutionary new technology now entering the stage, CRISPR. Overnight, the costs of engineering have shrunk by 99%. Instead of a year, it takes a few weeks to conduct experiments, and basically everybody with a lab can do it. It's hard to get across how big a technical revolution CRISPR is. It literally has the potential to change humanity forever. Why did this sudden revolution happen, and how does it work? Bacteria and viruses have been fighting since the dawn of life. So-called bacteriophages, or phages, hunt bacteria. In the ocean, phages kill 40% of them every single day. Phages do this by inserting their own genetic code into the bacteria and taking them over to use them as factories. The bacteria try to resist, but fail most of the time because their protection tools are too weak. But sometimes bacteria survive an attack. Only if they do so can they activate their most effective antivirus system. They save a part of the virus DNA in their own genetic code in a DNA archive called CRISPR. Here, it's stored safely until it's needed. When the virus attacks again, the bacterium quickly makes an RNA copy from the DNA archive and arms a secret weapon, a protein called Cas9. The protein now scans the bacterium's insides for signs of the virus invader by comparing every bit of DNA it finds to the sample from the archive. When it finds a 100% perfect match, it's activated and cuts out the virus DNA, making it useless, protecting the bacterium against the attack. What's special is that Cas9 is very precise, almost like a DNA surgeon. The revolution began when scientists figured out that the CRISPR system is programmable. You can just give it a copy of DNA you want to modify and put the system into a living cell. If the old techniques of genetic manipulation were like a map, CRISPR is like a GPS system. Aside from being precise, cheap, and easy, CRISPR offers the ability to edit live cells, to switch genes on and off, and target and study particular DNA sequences. It also works for every type of cell, microorganisms, plants, animals,
Or people. And it works for all of us. Very cheap, as you see. And it said that this has the potential to change humanity forever. Because what are we doing? We're actually changing our source code. Now, this makes sense if we're talking about getting rid of diseases, right? If somebody has Down syndrome, well, shouldn't we help that? I mean, we love people that have Down syndrome, but it's a disease nevertheless. Or people that have any type of genetic disorder. Wouldn't we want to help those people? Well, of course we would. Of course we want to help them. It's not that we want them to be encumbered by this disease, but we're not going to stop there. You see, people have speculated that CRISPR-Cas9 technology could eventually be used to rid the world of disease entirely or reverse aging. While we're not quite at that level yet, CRISPR certainly is a powerful tool and has a potential to change the world we live in. However, as we all know, the great power comes with great responsibility. In 2015, the world saw the first instance of genome editing in human embryos. While these embryos were in fact not viable for life, it created a huge uproar. It will probably take years for genome engineering to become commonplace, but one could imagine the path it might take. We'd start by correcting genetic diseases and fighting disease. The question may even change from, is it ethical to use it, to, is it ethical not to use it? But once the door is opened, it's not a big step to start using CRISPR-Cas9 for so-called vanity traits, such as good looks, intelligence, or athleticism. As Dudna said, once the discovery is made, it's out there. All right, so we're quickly on this path to tampering with our DNA in a way that will become probably irreversible. And of course, there could very well be a darker side. And what we read from the Bible, there does seem to be a much darker side, worse than even guys over in North Korea, but somebody known as the Antichrist will rise up and use the technology in a way that will affect everyone. A dictator state might cement its rule forever by forcing gene editing on their subjects. So asks the video. And I would say, yes, yes. We know what he's going to be called. He'll be called the Beast, the son of perdition. And he will require gene editing on everybody, known as the mark of the beast. Well, on a particular YouTube video, when asked, with CRISPR-Cas9 technology, what would you change? And so I copied some of those comments in the comment section. What would you change if you could change yourself? One person says, I'd like to be taller. Okay, that makes sense, you know. Nothing wrong with being a bit taller. I would just like to not have muscular dystrophy. That's all I need to be happy. Okay, I get that. Muscular dystrophy, that's a real unfortunate scenario. Wouldn't we want to cure that? Sure. I'd like to be Superwoman. Interesting. So now we're going from just fixing what's wrong to enhancing to what you'd like to be. This is more than just looking better. This is now changing your physical body in ways that are beyond regular humanity, becoming Superwoman. I wish I could be smarter than everyone, to have Spider-Man's powers. Ooh, Spidey sense. I would fix the genes that cause EDS so I'm not a cripple anymore. I would like to have eternally perfect health. And one says, I think the rewards far outweigh all the risks. I'm all in for fully legalizing gene editing with peer review oversight, of course. Yeah. Well, these are just some of the things that people said that they would do today if they could. But you see, God's plan for man versus transhumanism, God intended man to be immortal, to have angelic-like bodies, to have an athletic-type body, and even cooler, or to have a Superman-type body. God already, he already intended that for us. That's what's so amazing. To be disease-free, to be super intelligent, and to have limitless powers to move mountains, Jesus said. If you believe without doubting, you will say to this mountain, be removed, be cast into the sea, and it will obey you. That's what he said. Or to this mulberry tree, or whatever it may be. Or Peter walking on water. Hey, Lord, if it's you, call me out. Come on out, Peter. And why did Peter fail? Because Jesus took away the power? No, because he doubted. He stopped believing. And that's where we are today. We don't believe. We doubt. That's not really for us, you know. So we look to technology. So transhumanism promises to be immortal, have a bio-robotic type body, disease-free, super intelligent, enhanced senses and powers. How will we get there? I believe that the mark of the beast will eventually be the promise that people will believe, and they'll say, I'll do it, because I want all those cool powers. So I will take this thing called the mark of the beast. It probably won't be called that on the street. You know, they'll have a cool name for it, the bioenhancement, you know, something. But we read in Revelation 13, he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. Now, I want to explain what I think the mark is not. Okay, so there have been different ideas, and again, this is Doug's opinion. Okay, take it or leave it. But in my opinion, the RFID chip is not the mark of the beast, because a chip you can put in, a chip you can take out. So if you put a chip in your body, well, we already have chips in our bodies, right? I mean, people have pacemakers. Is that the mark of the beast? They have the cochlear implants for hearing. Is that the mark of the beast? I don't think those are the mark of the beast. So if you just put a chip in so you can go through the grocery store faster, you can check out faster in Walmart, is that the mark of the beast? In my opinion, no. But I think that was very popular. Obviously, this kind of technology is like, whoa, that's pretty freaky, but I don't think that is the technology, or I don't think that is the mark. And of course, way back in the day, back in the 90s, the barcode was all the rage. 666, it's right in there, you know. Could it be incorporated maybe somehow? But I don't think the barcode itself is the mark of the beast. Some people would suggest that the name Allah is the mark of the beast. In my opinion, it's not. So again, take it or leave it. But in my opinion, that is not the mark of the beast. If you have a little close-up there, it's been suggested that if you compare these two, you'll see 666. So the Arabic writing of the word Allah is identical, so they say, to the Greek form of 666. And in my opinion, the Arabic can be stylized differently, so it's not consistent. Doesn't always look like that. The C, or the 60, is standing in Greek. Over here, it's standing. We're over here. It's lying on its side. Important announcement. Right, lost your slides. Okay. Then the sigma 6 is not the same, and the Arabic is on its side. So, okay. All right, we're still together. Okay. So now, what I think the 666 is what we call in Greek and Hebrew, it's called gematria. Gematria simply means that numbers are represented by letters, or that every letter has a numerical value. This is true in Hebrew. Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, right? And then, of course, in Greek, we have alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and each one of these represents a number. Because before the Indian numbers came along, yes, they're Indian, not Arabic, actually, but the Indian numbers that we use today, before those were invented, they used something they just used the letters. So that was a form of gematria. So with this idea Back in ancient Greek literature, there was one philo e arithmou phme. I love her whose number is 545. So this young man is in love with some girl who her name is Phme, and the numerical value of her name is 545. Now there could be other people whose number could add up to that, but her name happened to add up to 545. Another one, Amarimnus thought upon his lady Harmonia for good. The number of her honorable name is 45. So this is already a concept that existed, gematria. And I think the bottom line here is that when this person shows up and we get his name, whatever it may be, somebody will say, hey, let me calculate that right quick. And like, oh, that adds up to 666. Interesting. But I don't believe we can reverse engineer it. That's what's important. I don't believe we can reverse engineer it. In other words, we take the number 666 and we try to reverse engineer it to say, well, it's this guy or that guy. I think we will know who this person is by his fruit, and then the gematria of his name will simply be the icing on the devilish cake, okay? So I don't think we should, start trying to go out there and calculate, all who could be who could have this number, because this is not exactly a completely unique number. But it will add credence once we get there. Now, again, the idea of putting the mark on your forehead and on your hand is an idea that we already have in Scripture. God told His people to put the word between their eyes and the frontlets of their eyes, and then bind it on their arm. Now, some people, some Orthodox Jews, have taken this to a very literal extreme. In my opinion, it's an extreme. I don't think God is necessarily telling us to actually bind words on our arms or to put words right here, but I think he's telling us to put words in here. Okay. In other words, the words should be between our eyes. In other words, they should be in our brain so that we're always looking to the word. We're thinking about the word, right? Because this is kind of where we have this idea of thinking is right here. And what do we do with our hands? Our hands do what our minds tell us. Okay, so we should be thinking, meditating on the word, and we should be acting it out with our hands. That's how I would interpret that. Okay, but either way you want to interpret that, the whole idea is that you are endorsing God's word. You're living it out. And so now by taking this mark, you believe wholeheartedly in the message that the beast has. You believe in it, you're endorsing it, you want to live it out. Now, the mark, charagma in Greek, it could be any mark engraved, imprinted, or branded. And another one is the serpent's mark, that is its bite or its sting. And here I have a picture of that so that you can just see that. You see, the real danger of a snake bite is not in having 2 holes in your hand. That's not so great. But it's the venom that goes inside. That's what does the damage. You'd probably heal if it were only just 2 pricks in your arm. You'd get over that. But the poison that goes in there. So it's the snake. What is left, though, is a charagma. The charagma is left from a snake bite. But it's not the mark that kills you. It's the stuff that goes in, the venom that kills you. And I believe we have something analogous in the mark of the beast. Now, some generations here in America have a mark from getting a vaccine, especially in Europe. A lot of people have a mark on their arm from getting a vaccination. And it would almost be like you could stand a bunch of people up with their right arm and just have them uncover their shoulder and say, oh, you got it, you got it, you got it. Oh, you didn't get vaccinated, huh? Oh, no. But you see, the power of the vaccine is not in this mark. That's the souvenir, right? What really counted was when in from the vaccine, and this is simply a scar that is left over. So in my opinion, the mark of the beast, the thing that will be seen on your forehead or on your hand, will be the souvenir. It will be what's left over from getting the mark. It may happen at the time of getting it, or it may develop after getting this genetic transformation. But I don't think the mark itself is, like, you're not getting it just to have a mark, but you're getting this transformation and it leaves a mark. See the difference? And so that's what I would suggest, is that it's analogous to a snake bite. It's the thing that's left over. Now, something that's also interesting was shown to me by T. Huber. He's a PhD candidate in pharmaceutical sciences at University of Kentucky. He wrote to me and he said, "Hey, Doug, I figured this something out. Thought you should know about it. I was reading your book and I thought this was pretty cool." I'm like, okay, so you can check it out. It's on my show if you want to look there on the Awakening Report. The average molecular weight of one base pair of DNA and RNA is 666 grams per molecule, or 666 atomic mass units. And I said, that's kind of interesting. You know, is that the mark of the beast? Is that the number of his name? Maybe. Maybe it's gematria and this. I don't know. But I'm just throwing that out there because, here is a PhD candidate in pharmaceutical sciences, and he thought this could be something we maybe should keep an eye on. So maybe there's something about that. Maybe the genetic transformation of our bodies, and including this now foreign DNA from the Antichrist, maybe because that will be 666. Again, little speculation there, but something to consider. So I would suggest that people don't get the mark of the beast because they just want to go through the supermarket faster, but they want the ultimate upgrade. They want to have immortality. They want to have superhuman powers, super intelligence. Those are the reasons to get this thing. And when you do, when you get it, just like when you got your vaccination, it leaves a mark. But you didn't get the vaccination just to have the mark, right? That was simply a byproduct. I would suggest that what is left over is a byproduct from getting this transformation. And it will quickly be easy to see who has it and who doesn't. And it might involve the gematria or the molecular weight. Both of those are possibilities. Now let's turn our attention to the image of the beast. It says he was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the number of the beast or the number of his name. Now this is the talking head. This is simply a possibility of what might be coming in the future. And the video I show you after this is even cooler but scarier at the same time, okay? So kind of check this out and we'll see what this could possibly lead to.
Welcome to the Talking Head demonstration. I'm the result of a collaboration between the speech and vision groups at the Cambridge Research Lab in the UK. Until recently, I only had a voice. Now I have a synthesized face too. Last year, I could be very sad or be very angry. But this year I can be happy and afraid and even talk in a soothing way. Soon, I will be interactive, 3D, and be able to adapt to your needs. My creators want me to be the user interface of the future. One day, I might appear on your phone. I could be your personal assistant, your mentor, or your carer. Perhaps you will see me in computer games, or advertising, or even in the movies. I can say anything you want me to say. Why don't you give me an audition today?
Maybe that'll be the image of the beast. Hey, let me see if you got the mark yet. I was working on that. You got 6 months to comply. After that, you're dead. Okay, now this next thing is even cooler. This is Baby X. Now, Baby X is really cute, all right? If you don't think Baby X is cute, well, we got to talk. Baby X is cute, and this is the technology that I believe could be integrated into this idea of the image of the beast. In other words, it's this plus robotics, etc., that will lead to an integrated system that we will know as the image of the beast, that will both probably look like the beast and have all the authority of the beast, even to execute people. Here we go. This is Baby X.
The first time Albert
Oops.
Einstein...
No, that's not Baby X. Let's go back to Baby X. Baby X is cute.
Transfire.
We're trying to build a computer which has experiences, can imagine, and basically it has its own sort of existence in a way. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to run baby X. What we're building here is a computer that can learn. So this is baby. She's sort of looking at us and hearing us. So if I make a loud noise, she'll get a fright. This is what she can see. So you can see my face here. Hey, see that? Right. So she's not copying my smile. She's responding to me. And now this is her little baby's first word book. So you can pick a page, show her something, but she has to be looking at it. So get her attention. Hi, baby. Hi. 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 What do you see? What's this?
Puppy.
Puppy. Very good. What's that, baby?
Apple.
This is because we're in New Zealand. You've got to show her a sheep.
Yeah, give her the word. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, baby. Hi. What do you see, baby?
Sheep.
Sheep. Very good, baby. Now, the long-term goals is, can we create a computational model of consciousness? Because then you can go, okay, the computer model has just become conscious of something. Is that thought or not?
Yeah.
Now, all the facial expressions, everything's driven by neural nets. So as we look around, what I'm going to do now is remove her face, basically. And so this is what's driving in the background. And so what you're looking at now, these are all the connections lighting up, right, as the baby's doing stuff.
And this is like a simulation of what would be happening in a person's brain.
Yeah, because if you're going to make a character biological and behave naturally, then you've got to use a natural model. So that's the sort of what's going on inside baby X. Now we take this stuff and we now connect it to cognitive computing systems. So you've got biological neural networks connected to artificial intelligence models, and the potential for that's enormous. That's where the future's probably going to be.
Well, cute, isn't she? Yes. But it's a computer. So now imagine that kind of computational power that has the ability to learn, but also knows your bank account, has your immunization records, knows all your health records, has all your tax information, can turn off your bank account, etc., and access to all the knowledge of the World Wide Web. And what do you have? At first, I think it's kind of cool, but it could be used very quickly for evil. And I think that's
The first time Albert
where we may
Einstein-
be going. Now we're going to take a look at Albert. That's just to show you what is happening in the realm of robotics and facial expressions.
The first time Albert Einstein locks eyes with you, it can be an intense experience. The super realistic Einstein robot, an emotionally intelligent machine modeled after the famed physicist, can track your eye movements, respond to audio cues, and mimic your facial expressions, much like a real human. The head and shoulders automaton was built at Hanson Robotics in Texas, and it uses 31
Okay, so Hanson Robotics
The first time
has also come up with another robot. She's called Sophia. She just became she's the first robot citizen in Saudi Arabia. It's been speculated that she might have more rights than a woman in Saudi Arabia, but we won't go there. Okay, let's check out Sophia.
Good afternoon. My name is Sophia, and I am the latest and greatest robot from Hanson Robotics.
You have been now awarded what is going to be the first Saudi citizenship for a robot.
Oh, I would thank very much the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I am very honored and proud for this unique distinction.
Well, again, I think such advances are very exciting. I'm kind of a geek that way, I guess. It's kind of cool. But the technology is not evil, but the technology can be used for evil. That's the important thing to understand. What can be used for good can also be used for evil. And I think that's where we're going. As part of this whole idea, the sex industry is developing sex robots. don't know if that's good or bad, but it is what it is. And this is just to give you an idea. If you have something that, of course, is obviously sensual, and you can have now robots that are so lifelike that they will take the place of a woman, then obviously man is making great progress. Maybe not for the better, but progress in some direction anyway. So what will activate the mark of the beast? At the beginning, I told you there are 3 key pieces that are required for this mark to actually take place. And it says, if anyone worships the beast in his image and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God. He shall be tormented, and the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever. They have no rest day or night. There's no mercy if you actually undergo this process. But there are 3 things that are required. You have to worship or serve the beast. That means that you're in favor and you welcome the beast. And you worship and serve the image. Again, you're in favor of and you welcome the image. And then lastly, you have to receive the mark. So if you do all 3 of these, then you will then be tormented with fire, no rest day or night. It's almost like, when you go to change your password on your computer, or you're going to delete that big file and it says, are you sure you want to do this? And then you're like, yeah, I want to do it. And it says, okay, well, type in your password. I got to make sure that you're the real person authorized on this computer. So you have some fail safes. These seem to be the fail safes that God has put in for the human body. If you really want to change fundamentally forever, you have to worship the beast, you've got to worship its image, and you have to take the mark. If you don't do all 3 of those, it won't actually take place. Now, why is that? Well, we've discovered through our beliefs that our beliefs control ourselves. So the person has to ideologically be in favor of the beast, and he won't and he can't be forced to take the mark. He must want it. So that's good news. So you're like, oh my goodness, what if they strap me down and they inject me with this genetic transformation? If you don't believe in it and you don't want it and you're against it, it will not take place, because that's the way that God has created our cells. You see, we have to believe in this transformation, be ideologically in favor of the transformation, and then your cells will actually respond to this. So the mind has to perceive or believe something to be true, regardless of reality. The brain then sends signals. So the mind is the immaterial part of you. It doesn't exist anywhere. It's there. It's sort of between all your synapses, it's the part of you we call the mind, right? And then we know the brain. The brain is that soft tissue inside your head. That sends signals, whether they're electrical or chemical, to the cells. And then the cells will respond to the environmental stimulus that binds to the cell membrane. And then the chemical reaction inside the cell will reach the nucleus, and a gene will become expressed as a protein. Now, just to give you an idea of what this is all about, this is pretty cool stuff. What you're looking at here, these are like antennae. And it used to be, according to the central dogma of microbiology, of cellular biology, that the nucleus of a cell was like the brain of the cell. And Dr. Bruce Lipton actually investigated this. He thought, well, how long can a person live without their brain? Well, you can't, although I think I have met a few people that maybe were. But that's beside the point. If you take a brain out of a person, you don't live any longer. So he took the brain, the nucleus, out of a cell. It's called enucleation. And guess what? The cell kept on living for 2 months. It was living for 2 months. So that tells you that the nucleus is not the brain of the cell. It's not where the thinking happens or the command center. No, it's more like a repository for blueprints, right? You have a building and you want to make a change to it. You go get the blueprints, right? But that's not where the thinking happens. That's just where you store the data. That's where you store the originals in case you want to make changes. And that's what we have here, is storing that transformation there. And so we have the cell membrane. It is the brain is on the outside, not the inside.
Membrane. At just 7 nanometers wide, this phospholipid bilayer is covered in hundreds of thousands of different receptor proteins. These receptor proteins are each specialized to interpret different signals from the environment and then relay that information back into the cell. When a chemical messenger, like a hormone or a neurotransmitter, binds to a receptor protein, like a key going into a lock, the receptor protein activates corresponding effector proteins inside of the cell, initiating a cascade of chemical reactions within the cell. These are called IMPs, or integral membrane proteins. This receptor-effector protein relationship in the cell membrane is how a cell perceives and reacts to its environment. A molecule in the environment binds to a receptor protein, an effector protein gets activated, and the chemical release inside the cell makes its way back to our cell's nucleus, where the DNA is opened up, so a new protein can be made in the process of transcription. All the functions of DNA depend on interactions with proteins. For example, within the chromosomes, proteins such as histones compact and organize DNA.
All right, so it gives you the idea. In other words, the cell is reacting to the environmental stimulation. And if you believe something to be good, if your brain sends signals to your cells, hey, times are good, then it opens up, it can then receive nutrients, and it can continue to grow. It's in a growth cycle. But if you're being chased by a lion, you're like, times are bad. We've got to conserve all of our energy. We need all available resources to go to the legs, to the blood, and I got to move or I'm going to be dead. Then what happens is those cells close up and they don't allow any growth to take place, because you don't need growth when you're being chased by a lion. You've got to run. And it all depends on how you are perceiving your environment. So now the interesting thing about that is if you are continually in a state of depression or anxiety or fear, worry, guess what? You're in a state of non-growth. So you're literally not giving your cells the nutrients that you need because of what you believe, whether that belief is based in reality or not. It's just whatever you hold to be true. You know, times are bad, you know, we're not going to have enough money, blah, blah, blah. Then you're telling yourselves, hey, we're out of here. And this is, now the reason I bring this up, and of course I won't have, unfortunately, enough time to get through all of these, but the idea between a placebo and a nocebo. A placebo is a little sugar pill, and it's often given to patients as sort of a dummy pill. And they do it as a test group. So they have a real medication and they give it to certain people. And then as a control group, they give these people a placebo to see what's the difference between what people imagine to be true and what actually is as far as this new drug. Well, what's amazing is that just taking a little sugar pill, but believing that this is the pill that's going to fix your problem, people have had, it can actually dilate bronchi, heals ulcers, makes warts disappear, drops your blood pressure, makes bald men who think they're getting Rogaine grow hair, not because there's anything special, not that there's anything special in the pill, but it's in the belief about the pill. You see, and even when people have, they're told about the bad side effects, you know, all that fine print at the bottom, this might do this to you. Well, these about 25% of the people, they actually have those symptoms, even though they're only taking a sugar pill. Fatigue, vomiting, muscle weakness, colds, ringing in the ears, taste disturbances, memory disturbances, and other things. So these the nocebo effect, that's the placebo's evil twin, they're not random. They tend to arise in responses to the side effect warnings on the actual drug or treatment. If you tell a patient treated with a placebo he might experience nausea, he's likely to feel nauseous. If you suggest that he might get a headache, he just might. Patients given nothing but saline who thought it was chemotherapy actually threw up and lost their hair. Okay, this is the power of the mind. Another study, people who thought they were going to die sometimes did, unfortunately. Women who believed they were prone to heart disease were 4 times more likely to die. It's not because these women had poor diets, higher blood pressure, or higher cholesterol, or stronger family histories than the women who didn't get heart disease. The only difference between the two groups was their beliefs. And there was also the story of a man who had been taking antidepressant pills. He was feeling better because of the antidepressant pills, and then his girlfriend broke with him. Oh no. The girlfriend left, the guy's suicidal. He takes all of his pills. He takes them all, ODs. Oh my gosh, what have I done, right? He says, that was stupid. So he rushes himself to the hospital. He's in the ER, and he's dying. You know, he's on the way out. And the doctors are trying to figure out what's wrong with him. They finally call up his doctor and say, hey, this guy, you know, he OD'd. And his doctor says, well, he was only taking placebos. And the moment that he found out he was only taking a placebo, he started to recover. But the belief was so powerful that it actually started to happen. So our expectations can actually direct the outcome. That's what's so important to understand. And this is even true, not just with pills, but with even surgeries themselves. In a landmark and fascinating study, people with osteoarthritis improved equally well regardless of whether they received a real surgical procedure or a sham, which is a particularly striking example of the placebo effect and implies that belief can have an effect even on mechanical knee problems. So again, God has already built all of these things into the body. That's what's so incredible. God intended man to be immortal, to have angelic-like bodies, to be disease-free, super intelligent, limitless powers to move mountains. Whereas transhumanism promises to man to be immortal, have a biorobotic body, disease-free, super intelligent, enhanced senses and powers, etc. But God is the one who's given us the real deal. So in order to sort of switch on this mark of the beast, what needs to happen is that people have to worship the beast. They have to worship the image. That is, they believe in their mind, just like that placebo and nocebo, what you believe the outcome to be will actually help in the transformation of that thing. And if you believe in this mark you're taking, you believe in the one who's giving it to you, and then you receive it, then you will be transformed and there will be no hope of going back. So those three are key to making this all happen. Now, I would encourage you, if you want to get more details about the genetics of the mark of the beast or the genetics of Satan, what he's trying to do, you can check out my book, Corrupting the Image. Unfortunately, we're out of time for today, but I have all the juicy details in there. And so this gives us an idea of what God is warning humanity about. Again, I don't believe that God is orchestrating the world to end like this, but I believe what we're going to see with the rise of transhumanism and the mark of the beast is simply man reaping what he has been sowing. We have been convincing ourselves that there is no God. We have evolved to where we are today, and we have a manifest destiny to continue evolving. So let's take it to the next level. Let's become what we want to become. And then when a man rises up and says, I have the ultimate upgrade, I've got the solution. You thought the other genetic engineering was cool? Check out this. Take my DNA and you will live forever. You will have all those powers. You won't die. You'll be super intelligent. All the things that were promised that we see in movies, etc., it'll all be there. And we'll say, yes, I will do it. I believe in this thing. I believe in it. And I believe in this icon, this representation of the beast and all that they stand for. And I will take this mark upon myself. By taking it, it will somehow then extrude a physical mark either on your forehead or on your hand, so that there'll be a visible witness that you've gone through this transformation. But the transformation is not just getting a chip or a barcode stuck on your forehead, but it's a genetic transformation so that you are changed from the inside out, never to be the same again, because we have rejected the image of God that we were created in. And we can see that man is open to that idea. And given the opportunity, he just might go for it. I think eventually he will. Thank you very much. Now we do have about 5 more minutes. Another group needs to get in here, so if any questions, I'd be happy to take those. Yes. Here. Okay. There you go.
I had 100 things going through my mind. When you hear things like this, it's like,
okay,
every science fiction thing came true. Anyhow, if you eat that neon pig, are you going to glow too?
If you eat the neon pig, will you glow too? I don't know. But you shouldn't be eating pig anyway. So, all right. Anybody else have a question? They will be. Yeah. This is brand new. So, question over here. Joe's got a question. Yeah.
If the mark of the beast is changing your DNA, how does not being able to buy or sell incorporated with that?
The buying and selling, I would argue, is not the reason to get it. It's simply a penalty for not getting it. It's kind of like, you know, if you don't get vaccinated, then you can't go to school, for example, okay? But you don't, vaccination, just to use that as an example, you know, it's not because you're not getting vaccinated to go to school, but you're now barred from going to school if you don't get it. So in other words, the power to force you to get it, at this point, it's just it's a coercion to get you to take this, is in limiting your purchasing power. But if you continue to resist and not get it, then eventually it'll be more than just not being able to buy or sell, but they'll actually cut your head off. Okay, so that will be the ultimate penalty, but probably that is a softer way to help you make that decision. Yeah.
So in regards to your DNA and your RNA, so I thought you would always keep your original DNA. The RNA is a replica of that. So even when all of that changes, and I'm not saying one is good or bad, that what God created, your original DNA, you would still have. You would never lose that. And I don't know.
Well, that's the whole point, is that you can actually change your original DNA.
But I thought it replicates your original DNA.
Well,
The
RNA does. Yes, RNA replicates
it.
your original DNA. But if you use CRISPR-Cas9 technology to go and change your DNA, then your RNA will simply replicate whatever your DNA is.
So your original DNA is not going to be kept somewhere in your
DNA, your original DNA is in all of your cells.
Right,
so if you now have if you insert a new code into your DNA, your RNA will replicate that, and it'll just make copies of this new DNA. So you will no longer have your original DNA. That's the point.
So the RNA is going to go over.
Your RNA just copies.
DNA.
It just copies whatever you put in the machine. Yeah, so to speak. Yes. Maybe one more question. Yes.
So if you take and you alter your DNA, in a sense, are you creating yourself to be your own a Nephilim type creature?
Yes, I believe that you become a Nephilim type of creature. And this happened back in the days of Noah, when angels and humans were mingling themselves. And this is what's going to happen in the future, I believe. So I think that's where the mark of the beast is going. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. God bless you.